Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I have a book review of the book Beyond the Gate by Dave Wolverton. This is the second book in a trilogy. The first book is called The Golden Queen, and I read and reviewed this book a couple months ago, so the review is on the channel if you want to check it out. But basically, this is a kind of science fiction fantasy pulp novel series. It's a trilogy. The third book is called Lords of the Seventh Swarm, which is somewhere out of reach at the moment. And so I just finished the second book in the trilogy. And people who know me know that I'm a huge fan of David Farland. I think that David Farland, who's also known as Dave Wolverton, he wrote as Dave Wolverton for his science fiction works, and then he wrote as David Farland for his fantasy works. His fantasy novels, The Rune Lords, some of my favorite novels of all time. And he wrote some science fiction like The Golden Queen, which I really enjoyed this book. Not quite on the same level that I enjoyed The Rune Lords, but this was an entertaining book. I had so much fun with it. And as I've thought about it, I think that this book is, sadly for me, a bit of a step down. The first thing I'll say is I do really like the cover on this one. I thought the first one, it was a little cheesy, and I still think it is cheesy in the way they designed it. I think they were just trying to get cheap moments by being like, oh, see this? It's like a kind of Death Star type thing in the background. And even though it's painting, it almost looks a little bit Photoshoppy, whereas this you can tell is a full-on painting. And this is like a very direct moment from the book. Like, I know exactly what moment. And then on the back, there's a great image of the Bach and of Sarah Vane and of some of the villains. So, and of course you have Galen, Maggie, and Thomas here. And I started off this book and I was super pumped for it. And the premise, I think, is really good. The first book is a kind of a complete story that has a little bit open for the future. And I don't know whether Dave Wolverton wrote the first book, it turned out so well, and he got the contract for the next two, or whether or not it was a trilogy from the beginning. But regardless, the first book kind of wraps a storyline up, and this book starts a new storyline, but it doesn't exactly wrap it up. You can tell you need to read the third book to get the whole story here. I will say that the character work here is very good. I really liked reading about Galen, and I also really liked reading about Maggie. I thought she was really well developed here. I also thought that some of the minor characters, like Sarah Vane and the Bach, were really good. The character who has gotten the slightest the most, the person who should have been a major integral character focus, and for some reason has not, is Auric the Bear, who's on this cover. Auric should be center stage, and he is in the whole book, but his perspective is not in the whole book, and he's only the central character for a little bit of it. And his religious discussions in the first book were great, and they're pretty much gone here. There's a little bit of discussion about the morality of mating, which for mating with bears is different from mating with humans, and there's a discussion about that, but it's on such a paper-thin level compared to the first book. And also this book promises in the cover that you're going to see a lot of Thomas, the uncle who Maggie doesn't even know is alive, and he comes kind of in and tries to stop her from marrying Galen. And he is a kind of fun, swashbuckling character. He reminded me of Tom Marilyn from the Wheel of Time novels. And so I was like, okay, this character's here. Let's go. He brought the right energy that the book needed. And then he leaves. As soon as the adventure starts, he's like, I'm out. I'm not doing this adventure. And you're like, why were you even introduced if you're going to be like this? Or why did you go through the portal? Because, this is a portal sci-fi series. Why did you go through the portal with them if you weren't going to stick around? Like, it just felt like Wolverton had this idea for some scenes and then was like, I don't want to keep using this character, so he wrote him out. And it's like, but he was such a cool character. So it was kind of sad that happened. Also, the middle section of this book, and even to an extent the end, just doesn't feel fun. It feels like we're slogging through. The objective of what the characters are trying to do is not clearly explained. The objective here in this book is clearly explained. the Dronin are going after them. They're killing people. They're trying to both escape while at the same time find a way to establish Everin as the Golden Queen. Whereas here, the escape element is there. You know that they're trying to escape from the bad guys, but there's not a clear objective in all the ways. It's mostly just survive and protect Sarah Vane in this book. There isn't too much objective. So because of that, it feels aimless. The characters are constantly going on the journey. So because of reasons like that, I just don't think it's as strong a book. I had fun with it, and I still think it's like a positive rating, but it's just like, it's like an okay book. I think it's just fine. I don't hate it, and there are some sequences. Some of the romance in this book between Galen and Maggie is wonderful. Some of the sweet little moments and the discussions characters have is great. But the story, the plot, and the action and the adventure, because this is a sci-fi fantasy series, kind of like, it's supposed to feel like Willow. The first book really felt like a sci-fi version of Willow. And this still has that feeling, but it doesn't feel like the fun of Willow. It feels like the tone, but more bogged down. So unfortunately, I only give this a 6 out of 10. It's an okay book, but not a great book. So unfortunately, it's not great. I do intend to read the third book in a few months, and I do intend to read it and review it, and hopefully I'll have fun. What my hope is that the third book is amazing and sticks the landing, and I'll just be like, this is a great trilogy just with a weak book too. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. So if you've read this book, let me know your thoughts. If you're a David Farland or Dave Wolverton fan, let me know those thoughts down in this comment section below. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.